Welcome back to The Explainer. We are bringing our signature energy right back to the table for part 2 of our deep dive into commercial contracts and charter parties in the gas carrier trade. If you were with us for part 1, you know we laid the groundwork for how these massive ships get hired. Today, we're pushing way past that single voyage. We're going to look at what happens when a charterer wants a ship for months, years, or honestly, just wants total control of the vessel itself. And then, well, we're going to look right beneath the floorboards at the legal bedrock that holds this whole shebang together.
So, just to quickly ground us, let's do a fast recap. In our last explainer, we covered the voyage charter. Remember, that's where the charterer hires the ship for just one specific trip. It's an environment entirely ruled by the laytime clock. Once that notice of readiness is accepted, boom, the clock starts ticking. If the charterer finishes loading or discharging within the allowed laytime, great. If they run over, they owe demurrage, an automatic penalty. But if they finish early, they might earn dispatch. In this setup, the owner runs the ship, crews it, and takes on all those voyage expenses, while the charterer literally just pays freight for that single run. But what if a charterer needs a vessel for 6 months or 2 years?
Section 1. Time charters, hiring the ship by the calendar.
Okay, let's dive into this. This is our first new structure. We're moving from a single trip to hiring a ship by the actual calendar. Notice how perfectly the financial and operational responsibilities are split here. In a time charter, the charterer essentially takes over the commercial direction of the ship. They decide where it goes, they decide what cargo it carries, and because they're the ones calling the shots on direction, the charterer pays a daily hire rate, and they cover all those voyage-specific costs, things like bunker fuel and port charges. But, the owner hasn't just walked away. The owner still retains the technical management of the vessel. They provide the crew, pay their wages, handle all the maintenance, and cover the ship's insurance. So the owner gets a steady income regardless of how much the ship actually earns during that period, while the charterer takes on all the market risk. But, and this is a massive but, that steady income for the owner comes with a major condition known as off-hire. This is a huge financial risk. Look, if the ship breaks down mid-voyage or needs an unscheduled dry docking, or frankly has any issue that stops it from functioning as chartered, the hire clock absolutely stops. Those daily payments from the charterer are suspended for that entire period. So even though the charterer still technically has the ship under contract, their money literally stops flowing the second the ship stops working.
Because the ship changes operational hands for such a long stretch of time, we really need receipts. That's exactly where delivery and redelivery surveys come in. These surveys perfectly bookend the entire charter period. When the charterer takes over, a delivery certificate is signed documenting the exact condition of the ship, the equipment status, and crucially, the exact amount of bunkers or fuel already on board. Then, when the ship is handed back, maybe months or years later, a redelivery certificate does the exact same thing. If there's ever a dispute over damage to the ship or missing fuel at the end of the contract, these surveys are your ironclad primary evidence used to settle it.
Section 2. Contracts of Affreightment, or COA, the quantity contract.
All right, moving up the ladder of commercial control, let's compare the COA to our final, ultimate charter type, the Demise charter. In a COA, the agreement isn't actually tied to one specific vessel at all. The owner simply commits to carrying a defined series of cargoes over a set period. Think of it like a massive volume commitment, say 1 million tons of oil over 2 years. The owner has this immense flexibility to just nominate whichever ship in their fleet fits a particular shipment best. Now, contrast that immense flexibility with the Demise charter. A Demise charter, which is also known as a bareboat charter, is the absolute ultimate transfer of control.
Actually, you know what? Let's pause for a quick mid-narrative quiz to test your grasp on this ultimate rung of the control ladder. In a Demise, or bareboat charter, who exactly is responsible for crewing the ship? Think about it for a second.
The answer is the charterer. This is the defining litmus test that absolutely separates a Demise charter from all the others. In voyage and time charters, the owner always keeps the crew and the technical management. But in a Demise charter, the charterer takes over full possession. They hire the crew, they employ them, and they handle all the running expenses. For that period, the charterer legally and practically becomes the disponent owner.
And this brilliantly illustrates the entire commercial picture we've been building over these 2 explainers. You can see all 4 structures stacked right up. Voyage, one trip, owner crews, totally ruled by laytime. Time, a set period, owner crews, ruled by hire and off-hire. COA, fixed cargo quantities, owner provides a flexible ship. And Demise, full transfer, charterer crews it, paying bareboat rent. That right there is your complete toolkit for how ships are commercially fixed.
Section 3. The legal bedrock, obligations beneath the contracts.
Now, here is where we need to execute a pretty sharp pivot. You can negotiate the most brilliant commercial contract in the world, whether it's a voyage charter or massive COA, but honestly, it means absolutely nothing if it collapses under legal scrutiny. It all starts right here, seaworthiness. Every single charter party and every cargo claim eventually comes back to this one foundational legal requirement. The big question is, was this ship actually fit to perform its contracted voyage when it left port? If an owner gets this answer wrong, they can lose almost every single other legal protection they thought they had under the charter party. No joke. And I want to be super clear about this. Seaworthiness is not just some single checkbox on a random form. It is a highly multidimensional legal test. Yes, it means the hull must have integrity and the machinery must be operable, obviously. But it also means you absolutely must have an adequate and competent crew. Furthermore, it requires cargo-specific fitness, or what's known as cargo worthiness. For a gas carrier, that means your cargo containment and handling systems must be perfectly fit to safely carry that specific gas. If your heating coils leak or your containment system isn't prepped for a specific chemical, your ship is legally unseaworthy for that voyage. Simple as that. So, under the Hague and Hague-Visby rules, the carrier's obligation is to exercise due diligence to make the ship seaworthy before and at the start of the voyage. Notice the phrasing there. It doesn't say the owner provides an absolute guarantee that nothing will ever break. No, it requires due diligence. That means the owner has a real, provable duty of care to ensure all those checklist items were genuinely met before the ship sailed. If something fails later, despite their best documented efforts, well, then they have a solid defense. Section 4. Protecting the vessel, evidence, and compliance.
This actually leads us perfectly into the operational realities of how crews protect themselves legally through evidence gathering. Let's look at cargo disputes, for example. To protect against multi-million-dollar claims over cargo quality, crews rely heavily on a very strict chronological sequence of cargo sampling. Step 1. Representative samples are drawn preloading to confirm the cargo on the terminal actually matches the agreed specification. Step 2. Samples are drawn during loading to catch any contamination that might happen as the product moves through the hoses and manifolds. And Step 3. Samples are drawn post-discharge to confirm exactly what was delivered. These are carefully sealed, labeled, and securely stored.
I literally cannot overstate this warning. If that sampling procedure is skipped, or if those retained samples somehow go missing or are improperly stored, the ship's defense and a quality claim will completely collapse. It honestly doesn't matter what actually happened or whose fault it really was. Without those samples, you simply lack the hard evidence required to defend the vessel months later when the receiver claims the cargo was contaminated. It's game over.
So the crucial point here is that environmental compliance is just as legally perilous, if not more so. MARPOL compliance is baked right into the standard charter party clauses. It demands strict oil pollution avoidance. It dictates exactly how oily water must be collected and separated in the ship's slop tanks. It strictly regulates the lawful overboard discharge of that separated water. And above all, it requires the absolute integrity of the oil record book. Falsifying that book isn't just a minor breach of contract. It is a massive legal exposure that can result in actual vessel arrests and serious criminal charges.
Wow, we've covered a tremendous amount of ground today. From the intricacies of hiring a ship for years under a time charter or a bareboat demise, to the rigid, absolute legal requirements of seaworthiness and MARPOL compliance. I'm going to leave you with this provocative thought to chew on. If your commercial charter structure suddenly collapses into a massive dispute, will your legal foundation of due diligence and retained evidence actually hold up in court? Because out on the water, your contracts are really only as strong as your compliance. Thanks so much for learning with us, and we'll see you on the next explainer.